Alright guys, we're back with another waiver wire video so I can help you find the best and most important players to add to your teams. This is a huge video this week. There were some huge prospect call-ups, there's a couple big breakout young starting pitchers. I can't wait to get into all of it with you, but of course before we get started, if you guys are not already, please subscribe to the channel down below, drop the video a like, sound off in the comment. Channel memberships are open for personalized fantasy advice, and a huge shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. And as a quick reminder for the structure of this weekly waiver wire video, I have a big list at the top with 5 deep dense player profiles, followed by breakout sections that can help you guys based on any league you're in, like a section specifically for shallow leagues, a section for closers, a section for players to stash, a section for deep leagues, and to end, a section for players you guys should drop. All right, now let's get rolling. The first player in the big list this week is Logan Henderson, starting pitcher on the Brewers. Now, I don't want to be too hyperbolic. I said this a few weeks ago about Peyton Tolley, and I'm still confident in that. But Henderson, similarly, could be one of the most important pickups in all fantasy baseball this season. As of right now, the guy's a borderline top 40 starting pitcher for me. He has a steady rotation spot on a really good team that plays really good defense with a really good bullpen, and he has really good stuff. He was awesome his season debut last weekend against the Nationals, going 6 innings, allowing 3 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts, and barely any hard contact against him. Like, the Nationals could not square him up. They were mostly powerless against his really good fastball changeup combo. That changeup is Henderson's out pitch, which as a right-handed pitcher kind of gives some cause for concern, but I'll talk about that more a little bit later. And he's got a really nice fastball. Despite it sitting between 92 and 94 miles per hour, it has a plus shape, misses tons of bats in the zone, and that, again, playing off the changeup, it's a very difficult decision for hitters to make when they're both coming at them. Also, something cool about Henderson from his first start, I just like how aggressive he is, how confident he is, how he attacks hitters. He almost never fell behind in the count in that game against Nationals. He didn't throw a single pitch down 3-0 in the count. He didn't throw a single pitch down 3-1 in the count. He only threw 1 pitch when he was down 2-0 in the count. So again, even a few times when he fell behind with ball 1, he came right at hitters, no fear in the zone, and I love to see that from a young pitcher. It's also really easy to forget now how dominant Logan Henderson was in the brief cup of coffee he had early last season. He came up towards the end of April and stayed in the big leagues towards the end of May. Over those 4 starts, he threw 21 innings. He had 3-0 record with a 1.71 ERA, 36% strikeout rate, 7% walk rate, but he eventually just went back down to the minor leagues even though he was so effective because the Brewers had so many good starting pitchers and eventually just kind of got boxed out when everybody was healthy. But also, they gave him a big cue when he went back down to the minor leagues to work on a slider because like I said at the top, Henderson doesn't have elite fastball velocity and he has a great changeup. As a right-handed pitcher, that's a very odd repertoire foundation. But as last year progressed in AAA, he was throwing more cutters, he was getting the hold of a slider. He came back up in August to make a spot start when Jacob Misiorowski landed on the IL short term. But in that spot start, Henderson felt something with his elbow. He didn't wind up pitching the rest of the year. Then he started the season again in AAA, was lights out once again. Of course, he's just way too good for that level. And now that he's come back, we're seeing the big change in the new sweeper he's developed. Getting away from that tight slider he was throwing more towards the end of last year. Now having a big sweeping slider. I have his AAA pitch plots from the last 2 years right here for you guys, courtesy of TJ Stats. TJ's the GOAT. And just to have that sweeper, even though it doesn't have the best pitch shape of the world, even though it didn't miss the most bats at AAA, just to have something that he'll have a platoon advantage against right-handed hitters with is really important for Henderson because, again, that changeup is nasty. He can throw it against hitters from both sides of the plate, but against tough righties, you want to have another weapon at the major league level. All in all, this is a pitcher with really good stuff, really good command, a solid rotation spot, and a good team. Get him on your fantasy teams right now. I know he has a scary start this Sunday against the Yankees. I might not be streaming him or starting him in that start if I can avoid it, but honestly, even if he has a bad start there, take that as your advantage to buy him low or pick him up off the free agent wire if someone kind of rage drops him again if he has a not so good start against probably the best lineup in baseball. Now, before we get to the second player on the big list, a quick word from today's sponsor. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app. If you guys are not on Prize Picks yet, here's why you should be. The app is super simple to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, lock your lineup, and that's it. You're in. There's no complicated strategies. There's no confusing interfaces. It's just you, your sports knowledge, and your picks. Sadly, my hot streak has come to an end. I missed my last lineup by 2 measly Cade Cunningham points, while Duncan Robinson got blazing hot from 3, and of course, playoff James Harden is just a total mess. But now I'm looking to make my lineup for Saturday night, Lakers against Thunder. I think this is LeBron's last stand. I like him to do it all in this game, more than 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined, while still acknowledging the Thunder are good. They're probably unstoppable. Jared McCain will be a microwave off the bench again with more than 1.5 3-pointers made, and this will be a huge SGA game. 29.5 points, more than that for sure. Also, you guys can follow me in the app and my username right here so you can see my picks in real time before I even tell you about them here. But the best part, if you're a new user, you can get $50 worth of lineups just for playing your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is click the link in my description, download the Prize Picks app, and sign up with the promo code HMA. And that's it. You're good to go. And again, the link to download and use that promo code right down there in my description. And if you're wondering, Prize Picks is available in most states, California, Texas, Florida, of course, our beautiful New York. So make sure you check it out. Use the link in my description, sign up with the promo code HMA, and please Only play if you guys know you can do so responsibly. Next up on the big list is Christian Scott, starting pitcher on the Mets. If you guys take in my Mets content over my podcast Mets Stub, you know my multi-year infatuation with Scott and his stuff. But one, I'm really happy the guy's back. It's been a long road back from Tommy John surgery that he had at the end of the 2024 season after he originally strained his elbow in June of that year. So again, a lot of time in between his major league appearances, and he was so bad in his first major league start since that surgery a few weeks ago against the Twins. He had 5 walks. He didn't get out of the second inning. It was a total mess. You could see him on the mound kind of appearing very nervous. And he talked about after the game how the nerves got the best of him. His heart was beating very fast in that game. He was never able to settle in. And it was kind of easy from an analysis standpoint to ignore those 5 walks he gave up in that game because Christian Scott has had never anything close to a command issue. So again, flush that bad one down the toilet, has got another opportunity in this rotation. And his last 2 starts, Scott has 14 walks and 2 strikeouts and only given up 3 earned runs over 9 2/3 innings. And just so nasty, so dominant, especially with his fastball in the zone. That's the pitch that makes Scott special. It's got great ride from a low slot. It comes in between 96 and 97 miles per hour. Again, he's leaning on that pitch in the zone. It's explosive. It is the entire foundation of his repertoire. He's throwing it like 55% of the time so far this season. He relies on that pitch, and he can because it's so good. It's the reason that he has the potential to become a really special pitcher one day, if not in the distant future, possibly in the near future. And then he also has a crazy sweeper, some of the most horizontal movement in the whole league on this thing at almost 18 inches, a few more inches than he had 2 years ago in his last stint in the majors. And he's got this really nice sharp cutter that he's kind of honed in over the last year or so as he's rehabbed. It's been a good weapon for him bearing down on left-handed batters. Right there, pretty solid repertoire. Some issues with that I'm going to get to a little bit later. But the big one, you guys probably noticed before when I said Scott had only got 9 2/3 innings in those last 2 really good starts. He has a bit of a workload restriction right now. He's not really going past 80 pitches. In his last start against the Rockies in Coors Field, he clearly ran out of gas when he got to around the 75 pitch mark in the 5th inning, fell behind 2-0 on 3 consecutive batters, retired the first 2, couldn't get the last one, couldn't get that last out to possibly put himself in line for the win on Thursday. But again, still great. Still some really good stuff. If there's one real true concern about Scott and his repertoire and what he can do to attack batters at this point, it's still a little bit light against left-handed hitters. That was a big problem for him 2 years ago, especially turned into a home run problem. He really didn't have any way to attack them besides with his fastball. And it is mostly fastballs now. The cutter helps. He has developed a splitter over the last year. We saw a lot more of it in spring training than we've seen in these 3 major league starts. He really doesn't seem confident to throw it. The few he's tried, most of them have fluttered on him. He needs to get that pitch down if he wants to attack lineups that have really good lefties, because he has made starts against the Twins, the Angels, and the Rockies so far. So we haven't exactly seen Murderer's Row. We're going to get some more challenges from him over the next few weeks. But bottom line, huge strikeout upside and a guy with a very, very locked-in rotation spot at the moment. All right, big one coming up next is Robbie Snelling, starting pitcher on the Marlins. Huge debut, major league debut coming up for Snelling on Friday night. I'm super excited for that. If you guys have been watching my content since the offseason, you know that I called Robbie Snelling the best starting pitching prospect that would debut this season. I even reposted that clip on my Twitter account a few days ago when he got the call, and Robbie Snelling's dad liked and retweeted my post, which is kind of cool to see. But again, right now, because I'm recording this Friday afternoon, I'm going to talk more about his minor league track record, his past, and his stuff. And at the end of this clip, I'm going to pipe in some reactions from his debut in post-production before this goes out on Saturday. But again, pretty amazing minor league track record, amazing story. He was a legit 2-sport athlete out of high school, a 4-star linebacker recruit who was getting looks from LSU, Auburn, Michigan, Oregon, very legit football teams. Got drafted by the Padres the end of the first round with a comp pick, stuck with baseball. Great first year as a pro. Then he really fell apart during the first half of the 2024 season. His velocity fell down, and when that velocity went down from like 95-ish to 92-ish, he was significantly less effective, was walking too many guys, was not getting any swing and miss. And then the Padres kind of wound up selling him low to the Marlins when they made the trade for a half season of Tanner Scott at the 2024 deadline. Since being acquired by the Marlins, Snelling has gotten totally back on track, especially with that fastball. His velocity has risen back to around 95 miles per hour, where it sits consistently with a great shape with about 17 to 18 inches of induced vertical break. Right there, that velocity and that IVB from his relatively low release height will make that a plus fastball in the major leagues. Almost no doubt about it. And that pitch even has a better shape this year in AAA, getting an extra inch of induced vertical break, stretching up to 19 inches at times. And he was also so elite over the last 2 seasons at AAA. Last year, he got called up AAA towards the end of the year, made 11 starts, had a 1.27 ERA. So far this season, he made 6 starts at the level, 1.86 ERA, 40% strikeout rate. So very clearly, this guy is ready for a promotion. He earned it. And it looks like he's going to have huge runway in this Marlins rotation because Snelling was not on their 40-man roster. They DFA'd Chris Paddock to make room for him both in the rotation and the 40-man. So in doing so, Snelling kind of jumped over a lot of other depth type of pitchers the Marlins had on their 40-man roster. So they're saying, yes, he's 100% ready. It's time to let him roll. And apart from that fastball I mentioned before, that's an elite pitch. He has such a nasty curveball too. That's very, very effective against right-handed batters. It has a 38% whiff rate this season at AAA against them. And he also has an improving changeup, which has been a very, very, very important piece of his development over the last 2 years. 50% whiff rate against the right-handed batters at AAA this year, working as a firm third option behind that fastball and curveball. There's also a slider he's been trying to integrate into his repertoire more against left-handed batters. Again, he's growing a lot. He's throwing hard. He's got elite physical tools. Building up this repertoire, it is everything that you want from a top prospect pitcher who looks like they could hit the ground running at the major leagues. If there was one cause for concern, it would be command. I mentioned a few years ago how his command kind of had ebbs and flows when the stuff deteriorated. This year at AAA, the walk rate was nearly 14%. The fact that's gone in and out in the past, that's something to keep an eye out for. And now a quick update about that debut on Friday night. Not a very good major league debut for Snelling. 4 walks, the command was a concern, but he did battle hard after allowing 3 runs in the first inning. Stopped the bleeding right there. Was able to miss bats, was not really able to put hitters away. The command of the curveball wasn't really great. I didn't think the command of the fastball was great either. Wish he would have elevated it more, but still encouraging. First start jitters. Still have many of the same takes as Robbie Snelling, even after this relatively lackluster debut. 2 hitters now to close out the big list this week. First up, first baseman DH Bryce Eldridge, just called up by the Giants. And this is just one of those instances where even if you don't necessarily love Eldridge as a player or a prospect, you want to just take a shot on a physical freak, because Bryce Eldridge has unbelievable raw power. Some of the best we're going to see in the majors right away with rampant, terrible swing and miss concerns. He had a 115 mile per hour max exit velocity in AAA last year. He had a 460-foot home run before turning 20 years old. And last year, a little cup of coffee he got last 2 weeks, September. Didn't have great stats, about a 100 batting average with 30 at-bats, but he had a 70% hard hit rate on just the 16 balls he put in play. And this year in AAA, he already had 3 batted balls hit at least 110 miles per hour. So when Bryce Eldridge puts his bat on the ball, it's hit very, very hard. We'd love to see that. But he probably did just get rushed to the majors last season. Again, the 100 batting average across 30 at-bats. Not great, but 30 at-bats, who cares? Throw that right out. He was only drafted out of high school in 2023 as a 2-way prospect. He got a cup of coffee at AA and AAA in 2024 in his first full professional season. And again, debuted last season at 20 years old. Now, just debuting at 20 years old kind of puts you in rarefied air. You're up there with guys like Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, Alex Rodriguez, Mike Trout. A couple of not so good players either, but just any modicum of trust by someone's organization when they're that young to play in the major leagues, it's a good sign. And again, the guy's a freak. He's a specimen. He looks like a power forward that's 6'7", 250 pounds, and just crushes the ball. Projections like him enough to be a league average bat. And if that's kind of a floor or something of an expectation, we just want to bet on what could be a crazy power ceiling. The Giants are dying for a spark right now. He's played every single game at designated hitter since being promoted as of recording this on Friday afternoon. You just take a shot. And something else interesting, very small sample, but interesting I'm noticing so far this year, has a very different swing compared to what he showed in, again, a very small sample last season. Just to go through it, 59 competitive swings last year. Very short swing at 7.1 feet for this monster behemoth of a dude. I thought that was interesting. Still got the plus bat speed with the short swing. This year, again, not that many swings, only 13 swings so far, so this definitely will change over the next week or so. But he's an 8-foot swing, now a very long swing, but makes much more sense considering how long and lanky the guy is, and 75 mile per hour bat speed. I like that. And again, take the shot on lightning in a bottle for a guy like Bryce Eldridge. It's just worth it for the game theory of it all. Now, last on the big list, a buzzer beater, Ryan Waldschmidt, just called up by the Diamondbacks literally right before I was about to start recording this video, and I snuck it in even though I have to run back to Jersey right now as I'm recording this. But I got his AAA stats above because right now, as of doing this, he hasn't played the game in the major leagues yet, is going to make his debut Friday night against the Mets. He was ripping the crap out of the ball in AAA at the PCL, so we take that with a bit of a grain of salt. But he has really nice tools. Just looks like a very, very high floor functional major leaguer, will be for a long time. 111.5 mile an hour max exit velocity, also 3 batted balls this year, hit at least 110 miles per hour. Very good raw power, very solid overall. I'm showing you guys the prospect savant page right now. Hit tool's good enough. He can run a little bit, probably steal 10 or 15 bases in a full major league season. But he is another one of these guys coming from AAA with just an unbelievably passive approach. One of the lowest overall swing rates of any player at AAA so far this season. In turn, one of the lowest zone swing rates. So I do want to see how his swing decisions wind up over the next few weeks before proclaiming him this massive league winner or anything like that. But still, over a full major league season, I expect something like 25 home runs and 15 steals. If that moves the needle in your league, definitely jump on Waldschmidt before your league mates. Also, he's going to have a long runway to be a regular in this Diamondbacks outfield. They DFA'd Alec Thomas to make room for him. So again, Waldschmidt is going to be a starting corner outfielder on the Diamondbacks. Play a little center field too, but seems like going forward this season. Now that's the end of the big list, but like I told you guys at the top, I'm going to have some breakout sections now that could possibly help you for any league type you might be in. First up, players who are not rostered enough in shallow leagues. I'm using ESPN rostership rates here. First, 3 guys at the top. Nathan Eovaldi, Christian Walker, Brent Rooker. Eovaldi's coming off 2 gems against the Yankees. I've been pounding the table. He's one of my favorite buy lows in the league right now. I love him moving forward. Christian Walker, totally back to form. Looks like one of the best first basemen in baseball. Under 80% roster is kind of criminal. Same with Brent Rooker. I know it's been a bad start to the year. I know he got injured. He's about to catch fire. The Athletics have a nice week of some home games coming up. Get him on your roster if he was dropped in your shadow league. Same with Yuri Perez. I know we're all frustrated about Yuri Perez. I was banging my chest about Yuri Perez preseason. That was like my number one guy on every single one of my teams. It's not good right now. The command's kind of whack. But still, you just kind of want to put him on your bench just in case it works out, because it kind of can in the snap of a finger. Also, with Roman Anthony getting injured for the Red Sox, Wilyer Abreu's moved up to the 3rd spot in their order. Kazuma Okamoto has been stupid on fire for the Blue Jays going on a full month now. He looks like one of the best third basemen in all of baseball. I know I advocated dropping him because it looked like the swing and miss was getting out of control in the major leagues. He's made a nice adjustment, moved back in the box a little bit. He's ripping the ball. I talked about Max Meyer a good bit in my top 100 starting pitcher rankings that came out just a few days ago. He's made a big adjustment to his sweeper, throwing it a lot harder. He looks like a very solid top 50 starting pitcher to me. Then 2 catchers who are blazing hot right now, Ryan Jeffers, Samuel Basallo. Both should be getting looks in every 10 or 12 team league that you can start a catcher in. Carlos Cortez, another guy. I mentioned the Athletics having some home games this week. Cortez will not stop hitting. He's still in the lineup every single day, even after Rooker came back. I love that guy's playing great ball. And then Cole Young, 14%. He's probably one of the 10 best second basemen in all fantasy baseball right now. So for him to have that low of a rostership rate, where if you're in a 10-team league, he probably is worth a look as your starting second baseman, it's just too low. Next up, we have the closer report. Again, I say it every single week. One of the craziest years for closers I can ever remember in fantasy baseball. Just chaos left and right. Happy Daniel Palencia is back for the Cubs, but he couldn't throw back-to-back days after returning this past Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the Cubs had an ugly blown save when he wasn't available. So again, happy for him, happy for them, he's back. We have a little bit of a closer battle that's been brewing all season in Pittsburgh with Gregory Soto and Dennis Santana. Sometimes the Pirates like to go to Soto, sometimes like to go to Santana. Oddly, this is kind of too much of a closer platoon right now, so in most standard leagues, neither are valuable, but I still think I like Santana the most moving forward. We also have a new closer battle in Cincinnati with Emilio Pagan going on the injured list, Tony Santillan with Graham Ashcraft. Ashcraft got the first shot to close a game, mostly because Santillan pitched the day before Pagan actually got injured. Ashcraft had a really ugly blown save against the Cubs, giving up a 2-run home run to Pete Crow Armstrong, so keep an eye on that, but I think Santillan gets the next save shot. Jack Perkins, another guy, had an ugly blown save this week, but I still like him a lot as a closer moving forward. Gus Varland has pitched well in the closer role for the Nationals. Rico Garcia got the only save opportunity so far for the Orioles after Ryan Helsley got injured. Jacob Latz is the full-time closer in Texas. He's gotten almost every single save chance for the last month. And Ryan Zefferjon, if you just kind of want a shot in the dark, dart throw, miracle closer, someone has to close games for the Angels. And he, to me, right now, until Ben Joyce returns, has by far the best stuff in that bullpen. Next is the stash list. We're going to tell you guys about some injured players or players still in the minor leagues that maybe you should think about stashing on your roster if you have the space to do so. Jared Jones is probably 3 weeks away from returning to the major leagues. The stuff is electric. He's been showing that in his rehab stint so far. Then we got some big prospects who I think will all debut this season. Colt Emerson, Max Clark, Charlie Condon, Cade Anderson, new one on the list this week, and Emmanuel Rodriguez. Emerson, it's kind of any day now. He already has a contract extension. He's been hitting really well in AAA. Max Clark, not hitting as well in AAA, but when the Tigers need a shot in the arm, it looks like they may soon, he's going to get the look. Then Charlie Condon, ripping the cover off the ball in the upper minors for the Rockies. It's not like there's anyone on that major league team that should be stopping him, so I think he gets a shot soon. And Cade Anderson, I didn't think Cade Anderson would get a shot this year, but the fact that the Mariners put him in AA immediately, and he's just way too good for that level immediately, there's a lot of starting pitchers ahead of him. They have a bit of a starting pitching battle right now with Bryce Elder about to return off the injured list, and Emerson Hancock breaking out the way he has, but Anderson might wind up being way too good for the Mariners to keep out of their rotation at some point this summer. Then Emmanuel Rodriguez, again, he's going to get a shot for the Twins some point. Great power speed threat. When he gets the call, he'll be at the top of the big list because there's star potential here. And just in case your league mates are sleeping, it feels like Blake Snell will be back this week or next for the Dodgers. So if he's on your wire, pick him up, quick stash, get him in your lineup because Blake Snell, when healthy, is a top 20 pitcher in the league. Now we have our deep league ads. I want to start out with JJ Bleday because I feel bad. He barely got bumped out of the big list this week because of that breaking news for Ryan Walshman getting called up. I like Bleday. He's getting a shot now in the strong side platoon in the Reds outfield where there's just opportunity abounds. He's showing better bat speed. He's hitting for a lot of power. Bleday's probably on the big list next week with a lot of analysis about him. For right now, I think he's still more of a deep league target. Then Foster Griffin. I think he's pitched his way past being a deep league target, but very functional lefty soft tosser in the Nationals rotation. Griffin Canning returned this week from his Achilles tear last summer and looked really, really good with a very changeup, heavy repertoire in his first start as a Padre. I've liked Peter Lambert a lot. He kind of stood up to the Dodgers and was decent against them. Nice fastball and cutter shapes right now. Talked about him a good bit in my top 100 starting pitcher rankings. Joe Mack was called up this week to replace Augustine Ramirez as the Marlins catcher. Mack is more of a defensive catcher, but he has really good raw power, so he's going to run into one. 2-catcher target for sure. Carson Bench has been on fire for the Mets after a really, really bad first 3 weeks of his season. He almost made the big list this week as well, if not for all those call-ups. Maybe Benj gets back to the big list next week. Isaac Collins has been an on-base machine towards the back middle of the Royals lineup. MJ Melendez also in a very strict strong side platoon. The Mets will not let him ever get an appearance against a left-handed pitcher, but he's ripping the cover off the ball when he's on the field. I like Connor Prelip. He's like a fringy top 60 starting pitcher for me. Really good slider and changeup as a lefty with good velocity on his fastball, who's looked pretty good in a small stint so far this year. Jake McCarthy's been on fire, and if the Rockies are playing at home, why not stream a guy like that? Nathaniel Lowe also has been on fire. Looks amazing right now. Increased bat speed, driving, lifting the ball for the Reds. He's someone who also barely missed the big list this week. Trent Grisham has had really good underlying stats, but really bad on-field production, so I think right now is kind of like a relative buy low, but mostly in your deep leagues. He even probably was dropped by now. Spencer Jones also promoted for the injured Jason Dominguez this week by the Yankees. I don't know. I think Jones gets a lot more fanfare because I think Yankees players just always get a lot more attention. It's going to be real power. It's going to be good defense, going to be real speed, but probably some of the worst swing and miss we're going to see in the majors. And then I'm keeping a close eye on Griffin Jax. He's transitioning almost fully a starter right now. He got the 59 pitches on Thursday against the Red Sox. I think he threw 6 different pitches in that outing, but there's still no swing and miss pitch besides a sweeper. But the velocity's holding. I think he can be a very functional back-end starter for the Rays and someone that will be good for us in deep leagues. Now, I've given you guys so many players to add. I have to give you some to drop as well. Starting out, Augustin Ramirez down to AAA. Probably the biggest bust this year of all hitters in fantasy baseball. Get him out of here. Carlos Correa busted that ankle. He's out for the year. Jason Dominguez, sprained shoulder, going to be out for a month. Who knows if he gets a major league spot when he gets back. Andrew Painter keeps getting just torched in the back of Philly's rotation. I don't think he's a very good starting pitcher right now. Luis Castillo keeps getting worse and worse, and now there's murmurs out there about him possibly losing his rotation spot for Seattle, so I don't really see him as being a factor at all in 12-team leagues. Jake Bennett, I like this stuff. I can't believe he just got sent back down to the minor leagues, but I get it with Sonny Gray's return, so he's a drop right now. Then a couple early season hot streaks who have come back down to earth, and Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Dingler. Probably just not 10 or 12-team viable guys. Matt Chapman and Teoscar Hernandez, 2 very solid veterans, have been dreadful this year. Also 2 guys who I think are very firmly on the cut line for 12-team leagues. And then another guy who kind of thought broke out last year, but I never really was convinced, Dalen Lyle. I'm not holding on to him in any leagues right now. And then I'm really ready to rage drop Bubba Chandler if he has a bad start Sunday against the Giants. So fingers crossed for that one. But guys, thank you so much. Another great waiver wire video in the books. Thank you so much for all your support on this channel all season long. We're going to keep growing and growing and growing here. Going to drift into some more general baseball content this week, so be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, thank you so much. I'll see you next time.